Good evening, everyone, both in our audience and at home. We have an informational meeting this evening, commencing at approximately 5:30. It has to do with contemplating the heating and cooling system anticipated for our new city hall. As that matter progresses towards a final kickoff and commencement of construction, we have invited this evening Danforth, one of the leading businesses familiar with both the ins and outs of geothermal heating and cooling, as well as one of the foremost installers. And we had asked and invited them to make a presentation educational wise, so to help us make a decision in moving the reconstruction of and new relocation of the city hall forward. On Danforth's behalf, we have Mike Hain. I'd like to welcome you here on behalf of the city of Lackawanna and our various council members. And Mike, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you so much for allowing us to come and present to the city of Lackawanna this evening. Again, I'm Michael Hain, account executive with the John W. Danforth Company. Tonight I have with me Ian O'Brien, one of our asset managers. And we're here to talk to you a little bit about cooperative contracting, or as they call it, job order contracting. So job order contracting supports competitive bidding. The contracts are advertised, competed for, and awarded in a manner very similar to the way typical construction projects and contracts are bid. The major difference is at the time that these projects are bid and awarded, there's not a specific scope of work. They're bid out on a markup structure. However, the competition is real. The awards are made based on an objective basis. The contractors are vetted and qualified. There's an RFP process led by another municipality, and all of that documentation is open and available for anybody to research and review for its legalities. But again, they are openly, competitively bid by prime contractors, electricians, general construction, HVAC, plumbing. You can switch to the next page. These contracts are governed under General Municipal Law 103-16, which allows New York towns, cities, school districts, and other public entities to access these contracts. Again, they are competitively bid, fixed price, and they are indefinite quantity construction contracts, meaning that the awarded contractor could do multiple projects for one entity with different scopes of work.
Mike, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
Since the price is already fixed, what happens for overruns and additional billings and all and that sort of thing?
So the markup structure is fixed. The pricing for each project would vary based on the scope of work. But your question about change orders is a great one, because this process, and we'll get into this a little bit further, does its level best to avoid change orders, because it allows a collaborative construction process up front. Therefore, we are reviewing those documents with you and your construction team, looking for those errors, those omissions, or the opportunity of savings. Should an issue come up during construction and there's a difference of, hey, we didn't see this, or we're wanting extra, the governing authority is the one that determines whether or not the contractor can come back to the owner for an extra or a change order. That governing authority is given all of the documentation prior to you receiving your proposal. They review all of that. They review it for legitimacy and transparency. They can come back to us on a line-by-line basis, and there's a proposal in the back of your packet, and say, based on the plans and specifications, you should have had that covered. You cannot go back to the owner. Or you were at the table ahead of this process. How come you didn't bring this up then? Or, no, you're due the change order. But we can't come back directly to you. The contractor has to go back to that authority first. So again, we'll expand on it a little bit more, but that'll still be the gist of it.
Thank you.
So again, competitively bid enables contractors to complete a substantial number of projects under a single competitively awarded contract based on preset unit prices. So what does that mean? If you had 6 projects, your typical route would be to go out to the public with a public bid, right? And you go through all the same bidding documentation, all the same process, you repeat that 6 times. This process has already established that. So you have those cost savings by being able to go and have those projects done by the same contractor or the awarded contractors under this contract repeatedly, saving those administrative costs. These contracts are not transferable. They are only assigned to the awarded contractor, the winning contractor, and JWD Danforth will not assign those to any other contractor. So again, to speak to some of the advantages, like we just spoke about, it avoids change orders. I won't say there's no change orders because it is possible there's something in there. It also allows the owner to come to us and say, hey, we want to make a change. So it does its level best to eliminate change orders as much as humanly possible. Therefore, the price that you get on bid day, I shouldn't say bid day, the price that we give you in the proposal should be as close to the end product as possible. And again, that's achieved through upfront collaboration with your team, whether that's your architect, your engineers, your in-house construction team, whoever it may be, at the table reviewing the project as we're putting that proposal together.
One other question at this point that comes to mind, sorry to keep interrupting you, but the bonding issue, does going through this process affect our ability to bond this out?
No. This process doesn't change anything in the way you would normally finance or finance that project. Any insurance requirements that you have, any diversity requirements that you may have, any purchasing requirements that your city has, we can meet through this process.
Thank you.
So to the right-hand side of that column, transparent pricing and markup. If you're to actually flip to the back, there's a line-by-line itemized proposal. This is an example of a project. And just working on the first line, you can see that every line is broken out by its quantity, its unit price, its markup factor, and the total cost for that line. That's something you wouldn't see in a typical bid. You would just get your lump sum. Again, these are all taken off of any plans or scope of work that might be generated for a project. They're reviewed by the contracting authority and verified before you get your proposal.
Mike, I'm just gonna, for the sake of the audience as well as for my own understanding, what role is Danforth in as far as the whole contracting goes? I know you mentioned RFPs, I know you mentioned bids. What do you what is your niche?
Great question, thank you. We were awarded the HVAC and plumbing contract under this cooperative contracting for this area. So if you were to contract the contracting authority, say we want to do a project through this job order contract or this cooperative contract, and it was an HVAC project or a plumbing project, they would call us as the awarded low bid for this contract.
You were good enough to include references with this packet too that we've seen.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Yep, yeah, no problem. So speed to market, why is it speed to market? Because what we typically see in the open bid process is it takes about 60 to 90 days from the time the architects start that process to the time submittals are actually sent back for equipment. So shortly after contracts are written to subcontractors, we're saving that time because we're working with you up front. So by the time you get your executed proposal, you can hire us via contract, purchase order, whatever your mechanism is, and we're going to market right then. So we're saving those 3 to 6 months. Why is that important? It could be important for summertime construction, could be important for end of the year escalations, and it could be very important for securing labor. When's our construction season? It's the same for everybody, right? June, July, and August. But if we're able to get in early and we're just going to secure our labor, say March or April, we know we'll have the manpower for your project. Negotiated scope. So as we're sitting around collaboratively speaking, our pre-construction team is coming up with how we'd actually construct that project. What are the best means and methods? What are the best logistics? So it's negotiated because, hey, no, we really need this. Mr. Danforth or Danforth says, hey, we think there's a better way you can do this, and it could go more efficiently for your team and your particular project. And those obviously come with changes in costs, typically, so you're able to do that during this process collaboratively and not after the fact trying to work through a change order process or you're trying to get the job constructed and people are trying to make changes. Budget certainty. In this day and age, currently, there's been a lot of uncertainty in the budget and bidding market due to long lead times, inflation, and just the market, the construction market in the whole of Western New York. We can start giving you budgets and estimates on this project as the design is coming along. So you kind of know where you're going by the time you get there. You're not surprised by an open bid. Kind of hit administrative cost savings, secure labor and project management. I spoke about subcontractor selection. Yes, you're definitely free to pick your subcontractors through this process, pending kind of project size. So you can, if the projects are large enough, you would still want to go to your prime contractors to abide by those rules. Or if they're small enough, we can carry your subcontractors underneath our HVAC or plumbing contract. So speaking of change orders a little bit, like I said earlier, I don't know if I mentioned these particular metrics, but we've seen anywhere from 18 to 25% change orders on a typical project. That's $1 million project. You're looking at anywhere from $180,000 to $240,000 in additional cost by the time that job's over. The change order process is not productive. It slows the project down. If those are all identified up front, maybe you're paying a little bit more, but you're getting the project that you bought and you're getting it effective. People are on the job working towards the end instead of trying to figure out what's different.
Before you go to the next one, quick question. Do you foresee any impact with the stadium construction affecting this project?
Yes. Well, this project, I don't know this project specifically or its timeline. I just know about the contracting services. I have just a vague title of what your job is, so I don't know its schedule. But I would say that there's a number of construction projects in New York State that are affecting HVAC and electrical projects up and down the thruway. And yes, the stadium would probably definitely affect it, either from a labor pool standpoint, a material standpoint, no doubt about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So pre-construction services, this is what we kind of bring to the table at the start of the process. Whether or not you're in the infancy of your design, or maybe you're at 25 or 50% design drawings, we can sit down and take a look at those with your architect, with your construction team, and start talk about review of the systems that you're going to install. How are we going to pipe those, or how are those going to be actually installed? How are we going to procure them? Where are we going to store them? We're doing all of these services on this sheet prior to being contracted. So the day you contract it, we hit the ground running. All these questions are answered. The reverse is somebody has to get up to speed after you go through that 60 to 90 day bidding process. Right. And then they start to have those conversations. We've already accomplished all that. We know how we're going to execute the project. Again, material handling, rigging, scheduling, means and methods, best practices and constructability, phasing and scheduling. We work with you on your subcontract reviews. We can work with the architect on that. Contract documents are reviewed to make sure that we have the most effective contracting going. And those are all done. Again, we can do those up front prior to the contract so that our legal team, your legal team has looked at it and we don't have a delay after an award. Again, this is all done up front so that we can hit the ground running as soon as we're contracted. So yes, we did offer some project references. So we've had this contract a little over almost 6 years. We've done 104 jobs and just over $30 million in work. There's a majority of, there's a lot of school districts on here. You'll notice a couple of locations, a couple of counties have done in the double digits in projects. And your own, yes, your own Lackawanna Municipal Housing Authority has done 2 projects with us utilizing this vehicle. So you can tell it's been quite vetted by a number of different authorities and you know.
Have any of them been within the last decade or so? Like, do you know by, because they're not, I don't believe they're dated.
All of these projects would have been done in the last 5 years.
Oh.
Yeah, that's correct.
So all that's great information, and if it all works out great, that's great. But I think at the end of the day, who are you hiring? The company that you hire is the one that has to perform all those tasks and all those great things that I mentioned. So who is it? In this case, it would be Danforth for any HVAC or plumbing in this area. Who is Danforth? Well, we were founded in 1884 right in the city of Buffalo. This is our 140th anniversary. Last year, we did over $320 million in HVAC and sheet metal and plumbing work. We have over 250 office staff and over 1,000 union employees. We operate out of our 6 locations. We have 160,000 square feet of fabrication space. We have 7 fabrication shops producing sheet metal, piping, plumbing, carbon steel, and stainless steel. Why is that important? Because if we start to work on a project, say it's in wintertime, one of the things that we do on every project is we allocate as much as we can to our fabrication shops. What does that do? That gives you a better product because it's not being constructed in the field. Is it a safer environment for our men and women working in the shops? Absolutely, as opposed to trying to bend and crouch and work in the field. And again, we're fabricating that maybe prior to construction season. And then it's an erector set when it gets here and it's ready to go.
Like made in America? Local?
Yes. Yeah. We have, I'll call it our Tonawanda campus. We have 3 buildings, the Copenhagen area. We have a piping fabrication shop, a sheet metal manufacturing shop, as well as a plumbing prefabrication shop.
Michael, do you have a policy regarding hiring minority subcontractors?
Do we have a policy? We will certainly follow any policies that you have, and we will do everything we can to meet those diversity requirements. We're very, as you saw with that list of prior customers, whether it's counties, states, or the NIPA, we have a dedicated department in every building of our offices. That's nothing, they do nothing but hire subcontractors to meet MWBE, SDVOB, and DBE requirements.
Thank you.
So the next line there is a ESOP commitment. So that's an employee stock ownership program. So every employee you talk to at Danforth is a stock owner. So we all have a vested interest in having a profitable company, profitable projects. We've been nationally recognized. We have some of those attributes on the next page. Workforce development and community engagement. We're very engaged in the community, whether it's charitable events or team building events. We support a lot of different organizations. Other workforce development, obviously through the unions, we have our apprenticeships. This last year we had what they call the heavy metal school, where we brought in high school age students to our fabrication shop that work shoulder to shoulder with our union fabricators. Last year we hired over 26 college interns, and we're expanding that program this year. Some of our awards over the year: 2018 Mechanical Contractor of the Year, 2021 Book of Giants, and Contractor of the Year also in 2020. We live by a mission of high performance, no compromise. Now, does that mean the project's not going to have a question or an issue or something that comes along the way? I don't think anybody that's ever done a project in their house will tell you that there's not something that comes up. What I will say is we will not leave until the job is done, and we will never leave it undone. We'll always come back and repair, take care, whatever the case may be. So the next, mechanical contracting and fabrication. I think I've hit on a lot of these already. HVAC and plumbing, our pre-construction services, our virtual design construction. We probably have one of the largest computer-aided drafting departments in Western New York for a mechanical contractor. We can 3D scan existing rooms. We can lay out new rooms and show interactions prior to construction being taken place. We'll actually draw these buildings, put the goggles on the foreman and take them into the rooms, or take them 3D virtually through that before he ever gets to the job site. On a smaller basis, we have a design build department. We do refrigeration work, and I did already talk about our fabrication shops. Short and sweet,
Yeah.
or at least short.
I think one of the areas, I don't know if, Michael, if this is a fair question or not, to ask of you at this particular time, but one of the areas that we as a council would be concerned about are the alternatives for heating and air conditioning. We're considering, as a result of Mr. DeSantis's efforts, going with a geothermal system. Based on what we've learned about your background, that is something that you have handled with other municipalities, school districts and such in the past, correct?
As far as geothermal work,
Yeah.
Danforth as a company has. I have not personally.
Okay. Are you prepared to address the benefits and pros and cons of geothermal versus more traditional?
Well, I guess more traditional would be what would be more traditional, or what would be a baseline HVAC system? So there's a lot of different kinds. You could go with gas-fired equipment, whether it's gas-fired boilers or gas-fired rooftop equipment. We know that there's certainly the CLCP is looking to move away from that area. I think your current buildings are, one building that's all electric now, right? So one of the nice things about going with geothermal is you would be all electric. And that is certainly a CO2 saver. So you would certainly be future-proofed going that route. It's definitely much more energy efficient than some of the other systems I mentioned. I think geothermal will definitely play a bigger role as we go forward in HVAC projects.
How about cost?
How about cost? Cost is always an interesting question, because cost compared to what? How long will the system last? How long will the system that you're comparing it to last? Is the upfront cost going to be paid off through energy savings compared to a less efficient system? So, I think it's cost is a relative conversation that I unfortunately don't know enough about your project to speak to.
If I speak up, just one other thing would be just incentives for geothermal versus your traditional model. So we could do a cost analysis to show the two. So that'd be the two-year, basically like cost analysis of the two options and the financial impact through federal incentives, state incentives for geothermal.
It certainly is one of the more incentivized projects out there.
Would the
Geothermal.
infrastructure be different? So infrastructurally, would there be a greater cost one versus the other? And would it be kind of like an independent grid for the building?
I don't believe it would be an independent grid for the building being electrically.
Mhm.
You'd still be connected to the electric grid.
And we would be able to withstand, given that everything would be electrical versus a combo of gas and electric?
So I'm sure your electrical service would have to be sized prior to constructing the building based on all of the electric load. And then they would work with your utility company to make sure that the proper service was brought to that building.
So that's more of an engineering question that you guys are looking for right now than
Yeah.
anything Mike could explain to you right now. If you were interested in getting more information on that before a decision is made, we could bring in CPL and some other people to answer those questions for you. If you're not saying, if you need to get more information on that.
That might be beneficial, based, I think, of all of our understanding. The upfront cost might be more substantial, but the recapture or the cost down the road is made up well beyond that, as well as the need for, or the experience of breakdowns or repairs is less frequent with that type of system than with traditional air conditioning, heating systems, my understanding.
Yeah, my understanding that equipment has a longer life cycle,
Yeah.
the heat pump system. And again, you could, with the incentives that are out there, whether they're federal or state, will definitely bring down that upfront cost. And over a long term, the energy savings, those could be modeled as well.
Okay, any of the council members have any questions for Michael? If not, Michael, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. It certainly was helpful and informative. And we'll be discussing this with Mr. DeSantis as far as where to go next.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you.
So to make